Hello there everyone, so welcome to another faction overview. This time it will be the Shadow of Mirkwood. Let me show it. Alright, so Shadow of Mirkwood is kind of like the second Mordor, basically. But it has a very interesting starting location because it starts surrounded by enemies. Opposite to Mordor, that it has, a very safe location. These guys don't. They start surrounded, and they also have, let's say different objectives, as in with Mordor you can avoid elves, for instance, you can avoid dwarves, you can pretty much just go and conquer the realms of men, but not with Mirkwood. Mirkwood has immediately two objectives of destroying elven factions. So basically, if you want to have an interesting fight versus elves, that's what you should go for. Alright, let me see. There we go, Shadow of Mirkwood, blah blah. Military reports. Okay, so basically you start in Dol Guldur, and that's it. It's already a citadel, so don't worry about anything there. And you do start with some forces, as you can see there. You do start with some forces, but we'll go into that later on. So, objectives. You need to destroy the Vale of Anduin, the realm of the Galadrim, and the Woodland realm, and conquer 40 regions. Well, pretty much you will have those by the time that you've destroyed Galadrim, the Vale of Anduin, and Thranduil's halls, and you'll probably get to go against Dale as well, or even Dorwinion. So pretty much you're being confined to this area of the map, while Mordor is this one, So basically, what are the initial stuff? So you have three enemies, and you're kind of surrounded because this guy comes from this area, these guys, the Woodland realm comes down through the woods. So pretty much only from here you don't have a threat, and even then you can if the Vale of Dorwinion wins over Rune, which happens very often. So you have some first picks through the woods. I'm going to show you just by building a watchtower here. Yeah, you can see Guile here. I mean, your generals are really good for you to capture the first rebel villages, so don't worry too much about that. Actually have some forts to avoid the upkeeps, all that stuff. But, I mean, you're against two elven factions, and in my playthrough I conquered all of this area, let's say, and I was barely into money, and I didn't have a lot of units, so it's a very it's a very financial backwards faction, to be truthful, because there are no very good picks earlier on. Now you can rush the elves. I didn't when I was testing, but I know that it's quite effective, so it's one of the situations that I should recommend, that you rush the Galadrim elves and that you try to get as best units as you can. Now there's no mercenaries around that I have seen, and do note that in return there's also another idea, because these elves will accept the peace treaty. You can actually get some money out of them from the ceasefire, so that you can invest on conquering the Vale, for instance. It's all up to you guys. Now, what else? Let's go into the military, shall we? That's the important stuff. Basically, this is what you've got. First of all, you have Warg Marauders, which are good against horses, let's say. And then remember that these guys have a kind of like a special attack, which is really nice. Their upkeep is not that good, but they're so fast that it won't even matter. These guys are really cool. It's nice to see that they have a very interesting cavalry. Also, only one level of stables. It's always nice, that you don't have to build too much. Now let's check out the barracks. I would like to note that the Castellans of Dol Guldur there are not available earlier on. They're actually late game. But earlier on you actually have Camul's Shadow Guard, which is pretty much skilled against mods, effective against armor. I mean, not with these stats and with this upkeep. This is kind of like an upgraded Clan Guard. I mean, these two are really awesome, and the fact that these guys can just go against anything and do a pretty good job at it. So I also think that the recruitment cost is quite low for these guys. Now you have Dol Guldur hosts, 6-8. These are basic infantry units, and you also have some orc maulers, effective against armor. It's kind of cool that you can get an effective against armor cheap unit. It's rather cheap. I would like the defense to be better, but in all honesty, I feel like they have a good attack and there's just bad defense. So this is probably one of the factions that rely the most on the smiths. I mean, you only get the 3rd level, but at least go for that. I mean, it's just a way for you to be sure that you get the most out of your units. Now, still on the barracks. Late game, you actually have the Castellans of Dol Guldur, frighten nearby enemy infantry 1027. Do note that the upkeep is quite low. Lower than 400 for such an elite unit is really cool. They don't have anything against cavalry or anything, but the frighten nearby enemy infantry can be really cool. You have a Pike unit. That's pretty much what you need, to hold the line. It's not as good as others, as I would say, but it will still get the job done. Then you have some Mirkwood Uruk blades. They're quite effective in terms of the upkeep. I mean, it's just a direct upgrade from Dol Guldur hosts, and you won't pay too much in upkeep for that. So that's basically what we have in terms of infantry. Then we have some ranges, which is really nice. We have the Dol Guldur archers. Do note that they have very low accuracy. I wouldn't build any of these unless absolutely necessary. Always go for the Camus shadow ranges, which can hide anywhere, missile attack of 6, and then very high with 250 meters. They even offset the Camus shadow bows, but I would like to note the low upkeep of these archers. All of their archers, even their elite ones, are very low in upkeep. I love that. Now, Camus shadow bows have less range and less accuracy, but they will still be worthwhile, mostly because you can't recruit just the shadow bows. Now, we also have access to some trolls, and do note that it doesn't really grow with the troll training ground. I don't know what's up there. I don't know if you can actually arrive to a later on idea to have better ones. But still, if not, then don't upgrade it. It's just a waste of money. Dol Guldur trolls, basic trolls. They have lower defense stats, by the way. It's not bad in terms of the upkeep. And of course, these are trolls. You already know what to do with them. Send them against anything that you want. You also have access to troll catapults, so I would always recommend getting the troll catapults instead of the normal catapults or ballistas, just because they are completely immune to any cavalry charges and other charges. Now, what else? I already showed you the smiths. Oh, in terms of food production, I actually have some Mirkwood hunters and Mirkwood stalkers. These guys are just arrow fodder. I mean, don't expect them to survive for long. They will even die against the fort units, so might as well just recruit some raider warbands or raider skirmishers if you want a cheap unit. That's always better. Actually, that's probably one of the this is probably one of the factions that you should go for that. Let me see the shrines. I know that I had something else to talk about. Well, in terms of bodyguards, do note that you have only Uruk bodyguards. This is what I wanted to mention. But you do start with 3. I'm going to show you the army units. You do start with 3 of the Nazgl, which is kind of interesting.
Get ready for fighting.
Do note that they are slightly different. These are Camus Shadow Knights. They're even better than their other counterparts, than the Nazgûls. However, they don't have some specific traits like skill against mounts or frightening infantry, which I believe the other ones have. This, I'm pretty sure that they don't just have 2 abilities. However, the fact that they have 14 attack and 31 defense with just this upkeep, it's pretty cool. This is one of the best cavalry units there is. Point in it. Of course, you have the terror of the Nazgûl, and you have 3 of these guys, so just to show you. Basically, they're all of them. and they all have the terror of the Nazgul. Then I have this interesting character, which is Ulayron. He's a knight fighter, but that's also good. But these are Castellans of Dol Guldur, as you've seen. So it's kind of interesting that you start with these guys, and as well a unit of Camus Shadow Rangers. Now, if you want to rush the Elves, I advise you to immediately bring these guys up. I would just like to show you that, in case you don't know, there is a castle here. You can actually hold or take most of these castles with the beginning units. I mean, these guys can take Austin Guile, because the cavalry can just charge and recharge and kill them all. You know, basically, that's how it works. Now, you also start with a spy here in southern Mirkwood. Now, one spy alone is not enough. You'll need a little bit more to deal with these guys. You know, especially to go through Nazgl and all that stuff. Now, let's talk about the big stuff. You have excellent elites, okay, so we already covered that. Great archers, great anti-armor, you have trolls and troll catapults. But there's a slight problem with that. I'm going to show you. Earlier on, I actually built, you know, I have Camul Shadow Guard, I go for them, yay! And then suddenly I realized that they take 50 turns to replenish. So you won't get too many of these guys. I mean, unless things change after the event, the military event, don't count on having a full army of these guys anytime soon. I mean, you would need like 6 or 7 or even 8 places producing already the Camus from the start in order to have one full army of them, like in turn 80. Even then it will be very difficult. So don't count too much. I kind of think that this needs a buff, the mines, because it just feels like this faction is completely underpowered in the beginning. It lacks money completely, and you know, you can produce lots of units, great, and then you can't do anything else for the next 10 turns, even though you're conquering. So it's kind of an interesting idea, even though you can. You know, I'm producing a diplomat specifically so that I can send it to any neighboring factions and get some treaties and all. That's for sure what I would recommend, but don't count on just staying back and building up money, because that won't happen. Now, you do have a bigger problem, which is, you know, your low upkeep units, your low quality units don't have exactly low upkeep. So you have expensive upkeep for your capabilities for the lower tier units. I mean, it's okay when it comes to the higher upkeep units and the higher quality. They're actually, you know, their upkeep is lower compared to other factions, but by the time that you arrive there, you gotta have your economy flowing, which is really a problem with this faction. Now, there's actually no decent grabs unless you go immediately to the enemy's capitals and you take them. I mean, you can even go and try to take Moria if you want. I mean, that's up to you. It's a difficult thing to do, but if you can go there, of course, it will increase. But just to explain that, there's no like a rebel settlement that will suddenly fix all of your initial problems. Kind of like Harad when they go here on this settlement that just buffs their economy tenfold. So high upkeep just because you're poor. You know, if this was a faction that would get a lot of mines or some other form of income, then you would have any problem at all. So that is about it. I think it has a very good replay value, just because you can do a lot of different things and test out. Like, you can even try to rush Thranduil's halls if you would prefer and just control the woods. There's probably a lot of ambushes later on here on this kind of part of the woods. There's not so many here that I've noted. But yeah, that will also be a problem for you to replenish and all that stuff. Alright guys, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed these faction overviews. Next one is Remnant of Angmar, and yeah, that'll be it. Thank you guys, and bye bye.